Color television systems divide the world into three major parts. North America, Japan, and a few other countries use a system called NTSC. Invented in 1951, it's the earliest and perhaps the least reliable of the three systems, because faces often appear purple or green using the NTSC system. Joe Roizen has dubbed it never twice the same color. The next system is used extensively in Western Europe and elsewhere. It's called PAL and was developed by the Germans in 1965. Finally, there is SECAM, devised by the French and used in France and the Communist bloc.
Well, what is the difference? The difference between PAL and NTSC is easy to understand. NTSC, the North American system, uses 525 scanning lines repeated 30 times every second. And PAL uses 625 lines repeated 25 times every second. But SECAM, the French system, uses 625 lines repeated 25 times every second too. The difference is that the color is transmitted in an incompatible way to the PAL system. Well, why should there be that difference? It all boils down to how much money you want to spend and how many adjustments you want on the receiver. NTSC is the cheapest, but it requires 4 knobs to adjust on the receiver. The tint, the color, and the brightness and the contrast. PAL costs a little bit more, but it does away with the tint knob. One less thing to adjust. SECAM, of course, costs a little bit more, but it does away with the saturation knob. One less thing to adjust. It really boils down to whether you want expensive simplicity or inexpensive complexity. We had this problem at Fast Forward. We sent away all over the world for the news, weather, and sports, and the tapes came, and we had to hunt all over town for a machine to play them back on. Then we had to send them all the way to England to be transferred on an expensive computer called DICE and sent all the way back here just so we could edit them.
Stand by VTR. Stand by VTR.
Most emerging countries adopt either PAL or SECAM. The choice is made as often for political as for technological reasons. Although they share the same tiny island, Haiti and the Dominican Republic have different television standards. Haiti, like France, uses SECAM, and the Dominican Republic, like the U.S., has NTSC. Recently, Italy had to choose a color television standard. The contest was bitter. Although there was strong support for SECAM, the system used by the French and Communist bloc countries, Italy went with Britain and Germany and chose PAL.
In deciding what color system they want, well, let's say a country has even decided that they're going to go with the PAL system, the German and British system. Well, they may put that in and then have another election, and communists may take power or something, and they may decide, well, that's not really such a good idea to have the PAL system. They'd rather have the SECAM system.
A few years ago, Joe Roizen attempted to solve the problem with his own remarkable system, Naziquamer.
Have you ever noticed when you were in Britain that all the antennas stuck up this way? And like rabbit ears, you know. And when you're, of course, in other parts of the world, the antennas go this way. In order to make this system satisfy everyone, the antenna bends over 90 degrees in the middle and goes out to one side. I also got pretty sick and tired of, you know, there's nothing very creative about red, green, blue, yellow, magenta, cyan, the primary colors of color television. So in our color television system in Naziquamer, the primary colors, as you can see on this, are colors that are more pleasant, like mauve, ochre, fuchsia, and so on. Let me tell you about the knobs on the Naziquamer receiver, because I think therein I did my greatest real contribution to peace around the world as far as color television is concerned. You will notice that there are 4 knobs on top, which are contrast, brightness, hue, and saturation. That takes care of the normal controls. There are 4 knobs down below, which are labeled, and I'll explain what the titles mean since you may not know them offhand. Brigadier General Sarnoff, who was the American pioneer for NTSC, Erhardt, who was the premier of Germany at the time, de Gaulle, who was the head of France at the time, and Kosygin, who happened to be the leader in the Soviet Union at the time. Let me explain how the knobs work. When you turn on the BGS knob, the Brigadier General Sarnoff knob, it turns on all 4 other knobs and permits you to set the picture as badly as you want to in your perfect democratic fashion. When you turn on the Erhardt knob, it shuts off the hue knob, because in the German system, there is absolutely no need for a hue knob. If you turn on the de Gaulle knob, Now this one shuts off both the hue and the saturation knob because, of course, you don't need those in the SECAM system. Now the last knob, the Kosygin knob, is one which when you turn it on, it shuts off all the other knobs on the principle that the government knows better where you ought to set those knobs.